Hello, everyone.
How are you guys feeling?
Feels good. Good evening, everyone.
Yes.
Glad to be a part of the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited about it. I think it's gonna be good. I want to say before we go live, I think the media following and all that has been great.
Oh.
People have been informed, like hello. People have been like, hello.
Yes.
What time y'all go on?
Right.
Like,
so after Valentine's Day.
Well, that's what it's all about, and this is all deliberate. Because there's some people who sit at home on Valentine's Day like, hail to the no. And so this show is for them. And I'm going to say this again, so spoiler alert. But there's a ton of people out there just unhappy, and they're just stagnant in what they're in.
Right.
And we have had the courage to, whether we chose to or not, to move on.
Yeah.
And everybody's good, right?
Yeah.
In your new life?
Stand in that.
Okay, good. Because that's what I want to talk about. Is that it's we represent the other side, and the other side looks hot.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
And that's what we're going to be talking about.
Say cheese. Dana, look at me. Hold it.
All right.
Ready?
Any questions? You good?
Okay.
Quincy and Dr. Sandy are powwowing in the back. Everybody okay? Good? Anybody need water? You got your water? You good?
Good to go.
Okay. What? They're veterans. They've been here many times. Any, no, you're at the right place. Are we live? We are live. Hello. Right. Fucking breakups and junk. Divorce. All right. We're ready.
You all ready?
Yeah. Cheryl and Michael, we're going to start with you guys.
Good.
All right.
Go 5, 4, 3, 2.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Dana Being Dana. I am your host, Dana Michelle, and you are watching Intellectual Radio, an iHeart radio station. Thank you also, intellectualradio.com, an iHeart radio station. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing this show, because I think we're talking about a very, very important topic. We are a week out of Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And so everybody's gotten through it. But for some people, Valentine's Day is hard. And I think that I purposely did this show a week after Valentine's Day, because we were talking about love and date night and all that sexy stuff. But there's a flip side. And I think there are some people who were sitting at home watching the show, divorced, in their feelings, divorcing, thinking about divorce, thinking about breakups, alone. And I wanted to do a show because this topic is very, very important to me. And the reason why is because I know so many people who are just not happy in the situations that they're in. People get married and they feel like they have to stay married. Not saying I necessarily advocate divorce, but I'm just advocating people living their best life, right?
Absolutely.
If you choose to be with somebody, make that the best relationship that it can be. Right? But if not, there are ways to get yourself out and get to the type of love that you deserve. And so, without further ado, I want to introduce some of my favorite people and experts on this subject.
Not experts.
She's setting us up, isn't she? But Dee Dee is a friend of mine who we met about a year ago.
It's been longer.
We actually met at Bad Moms because we have mutual friends, right? And she is a bad mom, which means she's awesome. But Dee Dee, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell everybody how long you have been divorced.
I'm Dee Dee. It's been legally almost 2 years, going on 3 years separated. Many years before that, contemplating the whole process and what needs to be done.
Because in a lot of ways, relationships are over before you're actually
Long before that.
divorced, filing, etc. Right?
Correct. And single mom to 2 kiddos, 12 and 8.
And they're amazing. They're
They're
cute.
awesome. They're rock and roll kids, just like the rock and roll mom.
There you go. Cornelius and I have been friends for a long, long time, like 11 years.
Yeah, well, we go back.
I went to law school with your ex-wife.
Yes.
And how long?
How funny is that?
Well, we've been friends. We've stayed friends all this time.
Absolutely.
So how long have you been divorced?
Oh wow. Been divorced now probably about 8 years now.
8 years, yeah.
Happily.
He's the OG in this divorce game. And how many kids between you and your ex-wife?
We just have one daughter together.
One daughter,
Yeah.
right?
It's amazing.
Okay. Precious?
Yes.
Precious and I are in the legal game together.
Yes.
She's a very good friend of mine. So do you want to talk a little bit about your situation?
Yes.
Where you're at?
So I am hopefully crossing my fingers and praying that I will be divorced in 1 week from today.
Yes, indeed. And we will be popping bottles like on the phone with me, I have two very good friends of mine, Cheryl and Micah. They are two authors of a phenomenal book that I brought here with me tonight. Do you guys want to introduce yourself and tell us the name of your fabulous book?
Yes.
Absolutely, we're Micah and Cheryl Chambers, and we wrote this book. It is called Your Rejection, God's Protection, a unique biblical approach to understanding adversity.
It's fantastic. And what I would like to start with briefly is just talking about some of the points that I pulled out of it. I haven't shared this with the panel, nor have I shared it with Cheryl and Micah. I mean, obviously they wrote it, so they know it won't be a surprise to them what I'm about to say. But these are the things that resonated with me when I read the book, and I think it's fabulous. I really do, just in terms of understanding rejection. Because in many ways, when bad things happen to you, sometimes it's meant to be because you're dodging a bullet. If you believe that all relationships fail but one, sometimes the one you choose for you is not the one that the higher power, God, or just the universe, right, depending on your spirituality, but it's not what has been designated for you. It may have been your will or your desire, but it may not have been what has been intended for you. So one of the first things that I wanted to talk about that Cheryl and Micah so eloquently put in their fabulous book, the first one was timing. And what I loved about it was what they talked about. This was about your driving test, Cheryl. You remember that chapter?
Absolutely, how can I forget it?
So Cheryl, when she turned 16, it took her a couple of times to pass her driving test. And it wasn't because she can't drive, right? Because a lot of people think they can drive, but they can't. That's not Cheryl. Cheryl decided not to take the driving class. So she skipped ahead of the class and then went on to the test. But what it talked about with respect to timing is that you can't rush God's will and timing in your life. And sometimes what you really want is delayed from manifesting until you're really ready to receive it. Sometimes things are prevented from you until you're really ready to receive it. And I thought that was so powerful to me because sometimes timing is everything. And in many ways, a lot of people get married and it's just not the right time.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Or the right person.
Or the
Amen
right
to that.
person. Absolutely. So the second point was that, and I've heard this before, this is sometimes a setback can be a setup. This was about your mother-in-law. Micah, this is your mama. I'm talking about your mama. Are you there?
Yes, yes.
This is when she applied for the job that she came out of retirement for in social work. But in her heart, it was always to open up her daycare, to run her own daycare. And it was when she got turned down from that job. They went with another candidate who was probably less qualified and less awesome. But it was the destiny of Micah's mom to open up a daycare and to have that daycare. So sometimes the setback, right, not getting the job would have distracted her from her path, and she would have continued on in that path and not fulfilling her true purpose and her true destiny. So it was, in many ways, it was a setup. It made her reflect on the rejection of not getting that job, made her reflect on what she really wanted to do in life, and she pursued those daycare dreams. Is that right, Micah?
That's correct. As a matter of fact, when she opened it up, our daughter was born a year later, and she's the one that actually allowed Cheryl to go back to work and raise her till she was ready for kindergarten.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
And that's the point, is that sometimes a rejection, right? Had she taken the job, she would have never started the daycare. She would have never done what she was supposed to do. So, and that's the next point, is that sometimes you may need rejection to nudge and motivate you into doing what you're called to do. I think a lot of times people spend time hemming and hawing in their life purpose, and rejection can be a catalyst for you to stepping into the purpose and the role that you were supposed to be in. I remember when I was married, my ex-husband asked me, he was like, what is your purpose? What do you try to do? What are your dreams? And at the time, he wasn't working, so I was supporting him and my children and my mother and other people. So my purpose was survival.
Keep it on head.
You want to hear what my dreams are, right?
Right.
And we weren't really friends, we weren't really partners in that space. This was near the end of my marriage, so it always sucks when your relationship's about to end. And so I didn't feel comfortable, sharing what my hopes and my dreams were. But it's interesting because so many things in my life have happened since then that have brought me to this point, right? Dana being Dana since August, right? So many different things that have happened for me in my life have been because of, or in spite of, certain things that have happened in my past.
You was able to give birth to your purpose.
That's a different show. And I think with all of that, then you find out your strength. You don't know how strong you are unless you're going through that hell. And sometimes you find that clarity because of the catalyst of going through the hell.
It's true. So I'll throw this question out there to you all. When did you know that it was over, so to speak?
I don't know if there was one real thing. Personally, there was just many things over and over, and hearing the same thing over and over, and nothing changing within, and nothing changing as the partnership, as you were saying. And you get sick of it.
Yeah.
You just get sick of it, and sick of trying to survive and hearing the same stuff over and over. And later on, I know you'll have some clinical experts as well, and they're fabulous in the journey too, with helping you find your own strength and giving birth to your purpose. And perhaps you don't know what that purpose is then, or even now, but it leads you on a different path and a new path so that you can continue to grow. Because when you're just trying to survive, you're not growing.
You're not living.
So I don't know if there was just one real thing, but it was, I think getting the strength within to say I'm done was harder than that one thing saying that it's done. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. For me, it was not being friends anymore. Not feeling like I had a support system.
Right.
Life is hard out here.
It is.
Friendship, partnership, marriage to me is having that best friend. It's having that partner, having that person who supports you and helps you fulfilling your dreams. What about the rest of you?
Well, I will agree. I feel like some of us are hard-headed. My mom, growing up, used to tell me a hard head makes a sore behind. And
so is your behind sore?
My behind is sore, honey. So I feel like there are many moments that happen where you're like, this is not for me. And I think for me, it got to the point where I had to say to myself, because I was afraid, right? I was afraid to start over. I was afraid to be alone. And for me, it had to get to a point where it was like, even if I'm alone for the rest of my life,
it's better than this.
It's better than this.
It's better than
It
this.
is better than
So
this.
true.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's so true. And I think a lot of people are afraid of being alone,
Yes.
afraid of change.
Yes.
Even if it's for the better.
Yes.
Right.
Sometimes people are just afraid of change.
Yeah.
They're afraid of that unknown. And they're afraid of the rejection.
Mm-hmm.
And another point that Cheryl and Micah have so eloquently put in their fabulous book was the intended audience.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when it comes to rejection, the intended audience is not the person who has been rejected. The lesson to be learned is not for the person who has been rejected, but for the person doing the rejecting.
Mhm.
You know how some of these exes get remorseful, right? Baby, please, I want you back. I didn't mean it. Can we work it out, right?
Yes.
Sometimes the lesson is from the person doing the rejecting, or the person on the other end of the spectrum.
Right.
So it's not even necessarily about you and your own journey. Sometimes you're merely part of someone else's journey.
Right.
Absolutely.
Micah and Cheryl, any comments on that?
That is absolutely so true, is that oftentimes we get so focused on ourselves and our ego, and it's all about me, and we throw ourselves a pity party, but we miss the fact that now we have an opportunity through our hurt and our pain to be able to help someone else. Look at your show, for example. You're being able to help so many other people.
Oh, thank you.
Things that you went through. So it really sometimes is not all about us, but about helping to empower and inspire other people.
That's so true. And so if you know anybody out there who's going through a divorce, who could use some reading material, who could use some advice, please share the show, because I think the messages and the things that we're talking about here are so relevant. I think a lot of people struggle in their relationships, right? And so not necessarily, I hope some people walk away from this show not necessarily running out and getting a divorce, right? But we've got a fabulous attorney here if you want to refer some business later. But
Might talk to you, Ish.
but tuning up your own relationship, right?
Yes.
Relationships need a tune-up. Sometimes they need focus, work, and attention.
Yes.
And that's what date night was about with last week's show. Spend time on date night, focusing on your relationship.
Yeah.
But if you decide that that situation that you're in is not necessarily the one for you, then pursue your happiness with a vengeance.
Yes.
And don't feel guilty for it. And that was one thing I feel as though I had challenges with. You go through that, this didn't work, I'm a failure, this is a failure.
Embarrassment,
Right.
all these feelings, I feel like, just consume you in that moment when you're like, this is not working.
But
What am I
now,
supposed to do?
looking back 8 years, 3 years, sooner for you, but own your successes and own your strength and
That's true.
own the things, I look back where I was, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and it's like, wow, I've done this and we've done this, my kids and I have done this, and now I'm doing this, and just own those successes and those
Because
little
they are
baby
all
steps.
yours.
Yes.
They're all yours. We've got Kimberly, who is also an attorney, divorce attorney. She works with Ish, who will be on later in the show. If you have questions with regard to divorce or anything else, please ask them. We're answering them live on the show, so please ask away. People are out here considering breakups. Like, should I go? Should I stay? What should I do? What advice do you have for people out there who are considering either a breakup, a separation, or divorce? And I'll start with one. What do you think about it? You want to go ahead?
Yeah, I jump in there.
Jump in there, Cornelius.
And just coming from my own personal opinion, you got to be sure, and you want to make sure that you've done your part to make it work. For me, it was going through counselor after counselor after counselor, and after seeing about 4 counselors and hearing that it's his fault, I was like, you know what? I did all I could.
Right.
And just to piggyback off of something, you do feel like a bit of a failure at times if you do the divorce. Don't let that be a problem for you. It's okay. Things happen. You're gonna fail. If you been an entrepreneur out here, you're not gonna have all the successes you want. So it's okay.
One of the things that I would say is stop internalizing somebody else's issues. If you're married to a narcissist, if you're dating somebody who's verbally abusive, if you're dating somebody with low self-esteem, if you're dating somebody who can't keep a job, right? That's not your problem. And I think a lot of times when you're nice and you're sweet, you make the mistake. Yeah, and you believe in people, and you're a friend, you're a lover.
You're
right?
a ride or die.
You're a ride or die. To all the ride or dies out there, stop internalizing other people's issues, because when the ish hits the fan, not ish, when it hits the fan though, we think it's our fault.
Yeah.
And it does take 2 to tango, it takes 2 to divorce and all those other things, but a lot of times we take on other people's issues and we internalize them. Right? When they lash out because they have low self-esteem, when they attack you because you have a job and they don't, when they're in their feelings about your success, y'all are laughing because y'all know that it's true. It is so true.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I want people to take home with you tonight. Don't internalize other people's issues because we make it our own and then we wonder what's wrong with us.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with you. It just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And you let somebody suck you dry, right?
Yeah.
Until you had nothing left. But that's one thing that I want people. That's my advice: is choose you.
Definitely.
Choose you. The decisions in your life that you will make you happy.
Yes.
Or other people happy.
Yes.
And when you start standing up for yourself and you start choosing you, that's when your life begins to change.
Yes, and I read an article. There was this woman who, she was a relationship expert, and she was divorcing, and people were like, oh my gosh, like you lost all credibility. And she was like, I'm going to choose not to lose my pretty, or waste my pretty. Right?
Don't waste your pretty.
Whatever that means, right? Like your sanity,
Right.
your beauty, your youth, whatever it is, like don't waste it, right? Something that Dana said to me is like, you want to live your best life.
Absolutely.
So
All day.
choose you and
Choose
live
you.
your best life.
Choose you.
And so one of my issues was like feeling alone, right? Like there were so many people that they were in relationships, they were married, and they were encouraging me to stay, even though it's like, but I'm unhappy though.
Yes,
This
right.
is not working.
And I think a lot of times people stay because kids are involved.
Yes.
And they feel that either one, you don't want a sense of failure,
Yes.
or there are children involved in the picture. And I think, again, choose you.
Choose you.
Because a happy parent
yes,
is
better
much
for your
better
children.
than a
Exactly.
miserable parent.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Love isn't always enough in a relationship,
Yes.
and that was one thing that I had a hard time. You still
Figuring
care
out.
about this person.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe. You know, there's still love, there's still, you know, the memory of love.
Right.
But love isn't always enough to make that partnership really work
Agreed.
and make yourself happy. You have to love yourself to be able to love the relationship and the marriage.
I think that's very true. I think self-love is very important when it comes to this whole process and healing and growth and moving forward. Practical advice that I have is build your tribe. One of the first things that happened to me when I was going through my divorce, I bought tickets for my mom. Hi, Mom. Shouts out to my mom.
Hey, Mom.
Watching my babies right now. I bought second row tickets for my mom to see Aretha Franklin, and I bought these while I was still in my in my marriage. And so, as we were just starting into the custody, your week, my week type of thing, I had these tickets to see Aretha. What you want?
You're not giving those up.
Okay, right. So we were going to go see Aretha. And I told my ex, like, you know I have these tickets, I need you to keep the tickets. He was like, that's your problem. R-E-S-P-C-T. So what I learned and who showed up for me, shouts out to my friend Reba and her daughter Wagner, but my first new babysitters came and showed up for me. So I always tell this to people, you need some teenage babysitters, you need some neighborhood kids. Get to know your neighbor.
Your village.
Your village.
Yes.
Build your village. If
Yes.
you do not, and I've said this before, if you do not have it organically,
Yes.
build it strategically.
Yes.
People you work with.
Yes.
Befriend the parents of your children's friends. Get to know people. Host slumber parties so then you can give your kids away if you need to. But build your tribe because these are the people that you count on. So that now when I ask my ex, right, because I've said several times, I travel for work. And I've had to go out of the country. I've gone to Argentina, Ireland, London for work. And I've said, can you help me with my kids? And when the answer comes back always, no, right? And I'm working. I got a tribe.
Right.
So you're not going to stop the trip.
Right.
You're not going to stop the work.
Right.
You're not going to stop my success.
Right.
And it's unfortunate because when it comes to co-parenting, my dreams of co-parenting is that, when we're here for these kids and we're making the decisions that we need to best help these children. I want to shout out a good friend of mine, Gabby. My girlfriend Goldie and her daughter Gabby, because Goldie went to Spelman with me, and she and I talked. Hey Goldie, hey Gabby. Gabby's a Spelmanite, and Goldie had Gabby young, you know, when we were in college. And what I loved about her story when it came to co-parenting is that her ex helped her raise her daughter. So that when Goldie was in law school, right, it was her ex who was helping her raise her kids. So it wasn't, that's your weekend, that's my weekend. It was, when Goldie is doing well, Gabby is doing well. So guess what? We're going to get Goldie through law school.
Right.
Because Goldie, as a mother and a lawyer, is much better than Goldie as a mother, not a lawyer. You know, in terms of pursuing her dreams and all the things that she wants. So build your tribe, because I think that's so important to your success. I wouldn't be here tonight, literally, if it wasn't for my own tribe.
Yeah.
And that's some of the advice that I give people, because a lot of mothers who are raising kids on their own are by themselves.
You can't do it yourself. You want to think that you can,
Right.
and it's okay to ask for help and reach out to that tribe and that village, because I mean, the strength that you get from others to get through all of this is so needed. You can't do it alone.
And I cannot co-sign enough, because I am not originally from Chicago. I'm originally from New York.
New York.
Yes, NYC, shout out.
Are you from Brooklyn? Because everybody from New York.
Queens.
Queens.
I know.
Queens.
There's no special, like, you know, BX, BK. No, nothing for Queens. But I have a 1-year-old who's amazing. I love him. Shout out to Asher.
He's so cute.
He is. And so my tribe did not exist here in Chicago. And so I had to build it. I have a mentor, shout out to Leslie, who's amazing.
Happy birthday, Leslie.
Yes, happy birthday!
Love you, girl.
Yes.
Leslie's been on the show.
Yes, yes. And so I was actually at her birthday celebration before I got here. But she has been incredible from day one, like in the delivery room when, you know, I was laboring I was in the hospital for an unrelated procedure months later. And whatever I needed with respect to my son, she was there.
And Leslie's been there for me too, which has been fantastic. she's fantastic, and that's what's important.
Truly amazing.
Is having that tribe and building those people.
Yeah.
Any other advice?
Well, seeing on the flip side, because as a man, you know, for me it was more so, hey, I want my daughter, and I literally had to fight for that. You know, I didn't have the luxury of just having her with me. You know, we had went on for a nice custody battle for a while, and it was ridiculous. You know, because all I wanted to do was be there and be with her. So I see where you ladies coming from, and I definitely feel you. But, you know, just from a male's perspective, a lot of people think that, you know, fathers like, oh no, I'm good. You know, we do this weekend thing. It's like, no, I want her, and now it's like I'm fighting to have her, and it shouldn't be like that.
No.
We should be able to co-parent with each other. So it's very challenging.
And I think co-parenting is important. I think
Agreed.
I would argue that there are 3 ways to co-parent. Or to parent. Yeah, here we go. Here's my theory. Y'all ready? Here we go.
All right, someone's down.
3 ways to parent. Number 1 is financial, right? These
Yeah.
kids out here cost money. Raising
Lots
children
of it.
isn't cheap. There
Lots
is
of it.
the present cost of what they need day to day, and then there's the long-term cost. Who's saving for college out there, right? 529s, planning for all those kinds of things, putting money away. All that kind of stuff is important. So number 1 is financial. 2 is supportive. I'll never forget a friend of mine who, we were supposed to have a conference call about a board, hi Scott, that we were on a board on together, and he was like, you know what, I can't talk tonight because my wife is at home with our 3 kids, and I need to be on the phone with her during what I call showtime, which is the time between dinner and bedtime, when it's just kind of all hell breaks loose. It's just, I call it showtime because it's just nuts. But he's like, I need to be there to support her. So even if he can't be there because he's traveling for work, he's on the phone and yes, dear, yes, honey, hey, cutie, blah, 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 you know, being supportive. So financial and supportive. How many parents out there who are not primary custodial parents are supportive? I support you taking this kid to this activity. I support you taking this kid to this game or this practice. Even if I'm not doing it myself, I've got your back because you're out there fighting traffic, buying uniforms, doing whatever it takes. So financial, supportive, and 3rd, participatory.
Yeah.
These are the people who coach the teams.
Yeah.
These are the people who lead the Girl Scout troops. These are the people who are out there hustling cookies. These are the people who are out there being room moms and PTA and all these other things, showing up in real, tangible, meaningful ways.
Right.
And what I would implore, I've got a lot of friends out there who are like, well, I just don't want to come after him or her, because I can't imagine having a battle.
That is my pet peeve.
Parenting is involved.
Yeah.
And you can be involved by choice,
Right.
or you can be involved involuntarily. And if you choose not to be supportive or participatory, my theory is that you should at least pay. Just like you pay you pay somebody to cut your hair, you pay somebody to mow your lawn,
Yes.
you pay somebody to clean your house,
Right.
you pay somebody to change your oil. If you care about the way your oil is changed and you're willing to pay for it, hear me now, preach. You should care about paying somebody
Yes.
to take care of your kids, even if it's their other parent,
Yeah.
because these kids aren't cheap.
So if you've got none of those 3 or 4, did we go
We
to?
talked about 3: financial, supportive, and participatory.
Then we start bringing the law in a little bit more so.
We
right?
do, we do. And which we are about to do shortly.
Involuntary.
We are about to do shortly. So does anybody have any final issues or final advice for people who are in a divorce, handling a breakup?
One day at a time, and it gets better. I mean, it does get better, and you're not alone. You're definitely not alone in it.
Don't let the anger consume you. It'll make you make some really bad decisions. So you just want to take your time, breathe, and just know it gets better. It does.
A lot better.
Yes.
Way better.
Yes, Lord. And my advice would just be self-reflection and really figuring out what your best life looks like. And that takes time, right? One day at a time. And whenever you figure out what that is, don't be afraid to execute that plan.
I think this is all great advice. A couple things I would say, and thanks to everybody who's out there sharing the show. Be specific in any type of document that you draft legally with respect to how your children and family are handled.
Yeah.
If don't say pickup is Sunday. Pickup is Sunday at 7. I would do 6. But you got to feed them. So make sure that there's specificity with whatever it is you're negotiating,
Agreed.
because that can catch you up, and it keeps
Later
everybody.
on.
You can always deviate from whatever you agree to in a document, but you can't get specificity when there is none. So always be specific in your decree. I think each parent should be responsible for being a parent, right? Don't
Agreed.
challenge or task one parent with knowing everything and then sharing everything with the other parent.
Yes.
There's no secretaries here.
Right.
There are no
I'm not
assistants
your
here.
assistant. I am not your assistant.
We don't work for you.
Right.
So there should be,
Stuff
each
together.
parent should be responsible for
Right.
being a parent.
Like, what time is the baby's doctor's appointment? Call the doctor.
Call the doctor. Third, and before we switch, we'll take a quick break. Third, I would say negotiate for the future, right? A lot of times people get caught up in child support today, right?
Right.
But are there any obligations or requirements to save and invest in these children's future for the future? Do you have a life insurance policy that's mandated? Are you
Yes.
getting, is anybody contributing to college funds? Is anybody contributing to the things that we value as parents,
Yes.
that we want to provide for our children?
Yes.
So you never know what the future may hold, so just make sure that you've covered your bases.
Absolutely.
If this person gets hit by a bus tomorrow, nobody wishes that, but just in case, is there coverage? Is there coverage? Are people protected? So just make sure that you're not only negotiating, if you're negotiating a divorce for your today and your here and now, but you're also thinking about obligations and commitments to these children for the future.
Absolutely. These
So-
children that we love so
That we
dearly.
love so dearly and who are so adorable to us.
Yes.
We're going to go ahead and switch now.
Okay.
And as we do that, Cheryl and Micah, do you guys have any advice for people out there with respect to relationships and rejection and parts of your book?
Well, I'll give a quote that I'm not going to give many times. Inner spirits reflect outer appearance.
Say that again.
Inner spirits reflect outer appearances.
Inner spirits reflect outer appearances.
Correct. So what you feel on the outside, for some people, is a mask. If you watch it long enough, you see what's going on the inside. The point for happiness is that you have to be happy yourself.
That's true.
Relationship is two, and it can only be as healthy as the people in it.
Very true. Very true. One of the things that I liked about what you guys said in your book, it was the part about low faith esteem. We talk about self-esteem all the time, but low faith esteem. And this was the part with respect to rejection, talking about how God sees beyond our own faith esteem, what we think about ourselves, and not just in who we are, but our potential that lies within us to do the things we were called or destined to do. I thought that was incredibly powerful. Having faith in yourself, believing in yourself. And I think going through a breakup process or a divorce process can really challenge your self-esteem, but also your faith esteem in terms of who you are and what you want to be and what your purpose is.
Absolutely, and it can strip you down to your core and make you feel worthless. But when you have that faith esteem and you believe that God has a greater plan for you, your rejection, later on you can realize, you know what, wait a minute, I'm glad that situation happened because it was actually protection. If I had been with that person, they might have dragged me down even further. You know, God has a plan for you. If you just tap into the faith that you have, it'll eventually all be revealed.
Well, I want to introduce the second half of our panel. We've got some oldies but goodies, some veterans to Dana being Dana. No. Dr. Sandy is a family therapist. She deals with marital counseling as well as family counseling. Do you want to explain all the stuff that you do? But she's been here several times and she's going to keep coming back.
Yes. Mental health counselor. One of my passions is marriage counseling. It is extremely rewarding work when you help a marriage get better, whole family gets better. And the other thing I do, and maybe we can touch on this briefly at the end, is do a lot of work with trauma. So,
Go ahead and tell us a little bit about trauma. And the kind of work, what do you mean by that?
trauma, working with people who've been traumatized.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of ways that we're traumatized. Certainly, affairs in marriages or violence in marriages are forms of trauma. What our country's going through right now after school shooting, we're all traumatized by these things. Child abuse for people who've been abused as kids is huge trauma. Work with firefighters and first responders who are traumatized daily on the job.
With what they see and what they experience, what they're called to do.
Yes. So, so that's just a little bit of trauma.
Yeah.
It's really tough work, but really rewarding. But so is marital. And helping people come apart. That's tough stuff, but people need help doing that sometimes. So.
Quincy?
I am Dr. Quincy Payton. I am a marriage counselor by training, not practicing right now. But I work at Adler University, which is a school really based for psychology. We do a lot of clinical work there. We're preparing clinical psychologists, marriage and family therapists. And so I'm back in my element, if you will. I enjoy this work. I specialize in premarital counseling, so I like to catch them before they make that jump. So that's what I do.
We'll talk about that
Yes.
shortly. Ish?
Hello everyone, my name is Ish Sarin. I'm an attorney at Schiller DeCanto and Flack, and I primarily practice family law. And I've been doing it only for a short year,
But she's so good. She is so good.
I've been in, I clerked at Schiller and I work for a family law judge, so altogether I've been doing this for about 3 years now. Very rewarding field, and the way I see it is helping people not towards something that's ending, but towards a new beginning, and helping them see that this is a fresh start, and you're starting fresh to your life. Make it the best you can.
So tell me, and I think it's great that you all are here. Thank you all so much for being here, because I think not only can you learn from people who've been through it, but what I appreciate about your experiences is that you guys have seen it all. And I'm sure a lot of clients and patients come to you feeling like they're the only ones in the world going through a divorce or having a relationship issue or having a marital problem. But you've seen a lot, I'm sure, to the point where it's like, honey, what you're coming with today is nothing compared to what I dealt with earlier this morning or what I'm dealing with tomorrow. So can you give me some examples or just talk about what are some of the signs that indicate to you that a couple can work things out?
I can tell you what for me is a sign. This is based on research, the research of a wonderful man named John Gottman, who's been studying relationships for probably close to 40 years now. He's in our circles just the premier relationship expert. And Gottman says is, first off, if there's an ember, it can be fanned back into flames. The other thing Gottman talks about is when a relationship is over, is the way I assess it is I ask people to tell me about how they met, how they fell in love, what it is they love about the other person. And when one or both of them says, I don't know why I married this fool, then I know it's dead. It's over. And that's research-based. That if the history's rewritten and there is absolutely nothing positive to say in any way about the relationship, then I say, well, then you probably ought to find my friend Ish.
I also think it's very subjective, though. What your breaking point is might not be the same breaking point someone else might have. And while to me, hey, I'm not getting my $5,000 credit card limit every month, might be the end of the world, and to somebody else, you look at them and go, are you serious? You have a $5,000 credit card limit?
I just want somebody to care about my
So-
work day.
But to me, that's the world that I know, and to me, that's a serious issue. Like, it's very subjective, and I don't think you can discount one person compared to the other. And going back to not everybody's breaking point is the same.
I'd say, and it's a frustrating thing for me, is when I only got one person trying, when I can't get both to participate and say we both want to save this marriage, we are both in it together, there's only one person in it. And what I find common about that person is that that person has began to think about their next steps. And not just their next steps, but also, do I still have time to go out there and find the person that I really was born to be with? The person who's really going to be the person that I dreamt of and I fantasized about, my real soulmate. And so that's when I know I got my work cut out for me.
What about, have you come across situations, and I guess we've touched on this a little bit, Cheryl and Micah, if you guys want to chime in on this too, when it's clear that things are over, that it's definitely time to move on, that there's no coming back, the rejection has taken place, right? What signs kind of speak volumes to you when you come across people in that regard?
I can speak to some of the behaviors that you see in a marriage that's dying or dead. This is again based on the work of John Gottman. He describes what he calls the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse of marriage, which are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And
Criticism, contempt,
defensiveness, and stonewalling. And the most corrosive of the 4 behaviors is contempt.
Yes, I know.
Every couple that comes to my office is treating each other with contempt.
Can you explain what contempt is? Because I think a lot of people don't fully understand.
Oh, yes. Contempt is when we convey to another person that we find them disgusting. We do it through sarcasm. It's basically the way your average 13-year-old girl behaves.
So when you start acting like a 13-year-old girl,
the marriage is
the marriage is over.
You know, it's the sneers, the whatever. But it goes beyond that. It's, you're so lazy. You never do anything. You never ever help me. You are such a pig, right? And that's
all the time.
I'm cleaning it up.
There's contempt out there.
Oh.
Shouts out to all the 13-year-olds tuning in.
Thank you for your being good role models of contempt. It is sulfuric acid to love. It destroys love. And in premarital work, Gottman was able to identify with something like 93% accuracy the couples who would not make it because contempt was present in their relationships before marriage. And I gotta tell you this, you treat your kids with contempt, you're gonna have your hands full when you got teenagers, because they're gonna be contemptuous right back at you.
Absolutely.
That's my soapbox right there.
That makes sense. That makes sense. One question I received was, how do you get out of a marriage when there's one person or one parent who controls all the money? If you're in a marriage where it's financially completely unbalanced or unilateral, what advice do you have for people in terms of that?
So my dissertation component of it was about exit strategy and how do you get out. And I interviewed women who had been married for 20 years or more. So these were women in their 60s and 70s. And so when they went through their divorce, it was the 1960s and 70s where women really didn't have access to credit cards and didn't have access to high-paying jobs. Many women couldn't buy their own homes. Our society was extremely sexist and misogynistic at the time. So I thought this was a good group to ask, like, how did you get out? And what they did was they readied themselves, their mentality, that the next couple of years, first of all, were going to be extremely difficult. And that includes the kids that they had. They had to also galvanize their support system, what little support system they might have.
That tribe, build that
So
tribe.
their moms, their dads, their grandmoms, anybody in their family, especially if the family knew what was going on in the marriage, especially if it was an abusive situation where that person had to leave. And many of them went back to school. Many of them had to reinvent themselves. But the first 2 to 3 years were the toughest because finances and money was not available to them. And so you're talking about just serious grit, going without for a long period of time, and how do you massage and navigate that with kids. It was some of the most heartbreaking things that I heard. But the advice I have for people now is not that dissimilar. Identify your support system.
That's that tribe I talk about.
Talk to them. You may have to move back in with mom or aunt or sister and begin to change the mentality of, first of all, what these next couple of years are going to be like and what is the plan moving forward. Am I going to go back to school? Am I going to change careers? How am I going to access finances to support myself and my family? All of that stuff.
Yeah. And Kimberly has weighed in. She said you have to ready yourself for the fight when you are the financially dependent one.
Right.
While the laws have changed, it is still an uphill battle when you are depending on someone else.
And to add to that, I don't think you should in any way feel lesser than the person who's earning. I mean, if you weren't there for that person, and if you weren't at home caring for these children and making sure there's a meal at the table when they come home at night, that person wouldn't be out there earning whatever they're earning. So you are nowhere lesser, and I think that's something women or men, whoever's at home, need to be told over and over again, that you're not weaker or less in any way.
Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. One thing Kim has said, she's talked about the tribe being very important.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure you have the right tribe, because not everyone is in your corner, even if they appear to be. I want to thank everybody for sharing the show. I think you should hit your share button, share the video, because I think this message is very, very important. I think this question is very important, which I've seen a ton, not only in my own situation, but in many other situations that I'm familiar with. Do you see control or relinquishing control as a major factor in relationships and or divorce cases? So a lot of times, sometimes we're not battling over money, we're not battling over children. When you get to the root of it, people are upset about control. I want to control that person. I want to control what they're doing. I want to have a hand or a say in the choices they're making when it comes to the rest of their lives.
A lot of the times it is primarily an ego battle, and you might have the client who is fighting the fight just to fight the fight, and you look at them and you say, you know what, in a couple years or a couple months it's going to settle down. You're fighting for this paper to look a certain way, but on either side of it, the dust is going to settle. You're going to default back to how things were. And the people who want to be involved will be involved. The dads who want to be there, the moms who want to be there will be there. So you have to counsel your clients, and you have to understand that you have to put your ego aside at some point, and
And I think by the
how it's
same
practically going to work out.
By the same token, just you talked about parents being there, the parents who will be there will be there. I think the parents who are Facebook and Instagram parents will also show themselves as well, right? They show up like, I'm parent of the year. Like, what do you mean, Your Honor? But give them a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
They take the Halloween pictures, but they don't go trick-or-treating. I mean, there's different aspects that people do for the pomp and the circumstance, when they know the law is watching, when they know people are, when guardian ad litems and people are invested, they act and perform a certain way, just for the theatrics. Are custody cases between, or counseling cases between unmarried people easier? So people who haven't been married, but they're either fighting over custody or they're in counseling over a child where they haven't been married, do you find that those are any easier?
No, I don't. I think they're just as hard.
I
If
agree.
not harder in some ways.
Like when
being-
children are
yeah.
involved, it's equally
always
hard
awkward.
across the board.
Yep. Obviously, if there's no kids, that's fine, but when there's children, it's.
Finances are definitely easier than children.
Yeah. And,
Is it finances are easier?
Easier than children.
Okay, okay. Speaking of finances, do you think parents should go to jail for not paying child support? Why is everybody laughing?
It depends.
I do actually. I do. I've been around men who will talk to me or other men about how they just got over on their ex-wife.
Wow.
And
Say that again?
I've been around men who have talked about how they just got over on their ex-wife in a custody battle. That as if it was an art form, or as if they were just being slick about it, and they got over, or they got over because they didn't have to pay anything. My father stopped paying child support when I was 8 months, and I think that was an intentional choice on his part. So I say, yeah.
You know, I think it's important. One thing that one of my cousins said a long time ago, when it came to child support and whether or not you should pay attention to the type of person who doesn't believe in paying child support, who doesn't believe in showing up for their kids. And I'll talk about child support first, and then I'll talk about just parental time or spending time with your kids. But when it comes to child support, and maybe it applies to both, if you're not looking to show up for your children, right? If you're not going to show up for your blood, then your ex never really stood a chance.
Right.
Because if somebody's not going to financially take care of their children, if they're not going to physically be a parent, whether they're supporting or they're participatory, they're never going to show up for you, because you're not even their blood, technically speaking. And I think when it comes to, I was talking about the financial piece, when it comes to, the physical piece of showing up, I think that's so important. And you just can't stress that enough. I think that if you only have your kids, let's say every other weekend, right? You should be Willy Wonka when it comes to those kids. Kids should be clamoring to be with you, wanting to hang out with you all the time, because you only have 4 days to parent. The 4 days out of a whole month is not that complicated in the grand scheme of things, right? So you have to look at the type of person, kids, and I'm sure you see this, right? Because I'm sure that parents will tell you, well, I'm this and I'm that and I'm amazing, I'm parent of the year and I'm fantastic, I run the Girl Scout troop and blah, blah, blah. But kids will tell you, either outwardly or inwardly, right? Subconsciously, they'll show you kind of what they're dealing with and what their experiences are. So anyway, any final words with respect to some of the advice? I think you guys are all fabulous in your fields, and I think if you've liked what you've heard here tonight and you want to reach out to these fabulous individuals, I'm happy to connect you, because I think a lot of times people need to talk to counselors to just get the litmus test of, am I in something I should be in? is it time for me to move on? And then I think once you've made certain decisions, understanding what your legal rights are, I think engaging lawyers and talking to
And
lawyers.
counselors. It's like you said, we are part of your tribe, and you'll come to your attorney a lot of the times and want to see them as your counselor, but we're not your counselors. You need to go to counseling, and we suggest that all the time. So
Mhm.
you need that whole tribe, you need your whole village, you need everybody there to help you out.
Go to counseling even when things are good.
Yeah.
I think that's a great
Mhm.
advanced skill that good married couples do. They go no matter what. And then I would also say real quickly, whether you're married or not, you must appreciate always what marriage asks of people. It is an awesome request that you are asking of yourself and what you are going to give to the other person. That you will forsake all others for this one person until you die. You must understand what that is asking of you.
Yep.
And let me add, I'm old, so I've been married 42 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations. That's fantastic.
In part, I tell my husband all the time he's really lucky because of how I see people behave. I go home and it's like, thank God I married you because you would do what I would do. But one of the things that is so important to understand is that child-centered marriages don't work.
Child-centered marriages don't work.
Don't work. The marriage is the foundation for the family. It is trickle-down economics. It works in family life. It doesn't work in the economy according to what I see, but any investment you make in yourselves, your own health, and the health of the marriage trickles down and benefits the babies. There's an old cliche, if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. And that cliche is still around because it's true.
Yeah. I want people to spend time focusing on their marriages because the children do benefit when your marriage is happy. Cheryl and Micah, any final last words?
Yes, definitely wanted to share that whoever's listening right now or you're watching, you are innately resilient. You can overcome the pain and the trauma of experiencing a divorce. And once you have the opportunity to overcome this rejection, go out there and help someone else. Help build up someone else's tribe. Invest in someone else to help empower them, just as you have been empowered as well.
I think that. Go ahead, Micah.
Elaborate on that. Communication is the key. Just touch on some points from some panelists there. Before you get married, get premarital counseling. Before, get pre-engagement. When we got married, we got pre-engagement counseling that he was super on the right track. Go, just like you would service a vehicle, we go once or twice a year just for calls and checkups, just to see where we are. Also agree with the panel talking about marriage actually should come before children. In the biblical model, God's first, your relationship with God, then your spouse, because your spouse and you are one, then your children. If you do it that way, everything should fall in line. And you can only fix yourself. You can't fix the other person. So if you work on yourself, as you work on yourself to get better, things will fall in line if the other person chooses to do so. Again, everybody has the power of choice, and we can't change anybody but ourselves.
That is so true. Thank you all so much. Thank you all to all of my guests here tonight. I think this has been a fantastic show. I think we've helped a lot of people. Thank you, Kimberly, who has been following us online. Cheryl and Micah, thank you so much for just being you and writing your book. Your Rejection, God's Protection. It's on my timeline. Please pick up your own copy. My experts, I appreciate you guys. You guys are fantastic. And just the advice you guys have to share with people is something that everybody needs to hear. So please reach out to my friends. They are fantastic. Tune in next week when we'll be talking about love having no labels. Love has no labels. We'll be talking about it next week. Thank you. This is Dana Michelle. I'm Dana Being Dana on intellectualradio.com. Next time. Thank you.
Good job, everyone. Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl and Micah.
Thank you so much for your time.
Alrighty, I'll call you guys a little bit later.